Look at the desk in that empty classroom. It isn't a place to learn. It is an induction cradle for a developing biological processor. Have you ever walked up to a school entrance and watched a thermal camera scan your forehead? Or opened a school-issued laptop and watched an algorithmic eye tracker log your gaze before you even read the first question of an assignment? That seamless validation is the first friction point of the merger. We have traded the messy, unstructured playground for a managed cognitive enclosure. 25 years ago, the school was a localized sanctuary of intellectual isolation. When you crossed that heavy steel threshold, you entered a private vacuum of absolute presence. No predictive analytics suite monitored the frequency of your mistakes. No institutional software tracked the micro-movements of your attention span to audit your baseline intelligence. You were the sole pilot of an unlinked mental canvas, and you didn't realize that learning was synonymous with independent exploration. But in 2026, the school is no longer a physical destination where you cultivate a human mind. It is an ambient capture terminal for a distributed cognitive network. To sit at your desk today is to occupy a critical data point in a vast telemetry-driven experiment. That shift from localized development to permanent psychological optimization followed a blueprint. I'm the Analyst. This is Blueprint Sequence. Rewind the tape a quarter century. In 2001, the school was a tactile island. The blueprint was defined by physical friction and the raw weight of paper. Remember the morning ritual? It was a clean, physical severing of environments. The heavy weight of a nylon backpack digging into your shoulders, the smell of rain on asphalt, and the definitive transition through a heavy glass door that required no digital passport. Your intellect was entirely offline. When you walked away from the school gates at 3 o'clock, your mind remained exactly yours, completely unlinked from an institutional server. Remember the intimacy of the textbook. You didn't wait for a cloud server to load your curriculum or an AI assistant to summarize the chapters. You encountered it. You held the physical heft of a 5-pound history book, the textured surface of matte paper, and the distinct musty scent of ink that had been printed a decade prior. You used your senses to organize your reality, the rhythmic mechanical click of a 3-ring binder, the rough texture of a pink eraser leaving dust on your desk, or the manual filing of your handwritten notes into a plastic folder. You were a mechanic of your own comprehension. The dashboard of the classroom was a landscape of physical architecture. There were no global user agreements to sign before you could pick up a piece of chalk. Your reference library wasn't an algorithmic stream of curated web links. It was a physical room, a labyrinth of quiet aisles, heavy wooden card catalogues, and the silent, unrecorded coordinate of a desk tucked away in the corner where your thoughts existed only in the present moment, completely unmonitored by predictive analytics. And there was the paper report card, a physical document hand-delivered in a sealed envelope, a definitive statement sitting flat on the kitchen table like a personal contract. There was no real-time parent portal tracking your grade fluctuations down to the decimal point every hour. You managed your own failures and your own triumphs, accepting the genuine risk of a quiet realization or a difficult conversation. That risk, the empty space between performance and reporting, was the very proof of your developing agency. This was the age of physical presence. Your textbook had no memory, your desk had no data stream, and your notebook didn't report your idle time to an administrative dashboard. You were the ghost in the classroom. Fast forward to our current coordinate, 2026. The blueprint has shifted from an institutional physical space to a permanent, predictive psychological profile. The modern school is no longer a room where a child is permitted to fail in private. It has been re-engineered into an extraction engine for childhood telemetry. Unlike the adult corporate world, where professionals choose to log into an ecosystem, the subjects of this ecosystem are children who cannot legally or philosophically consent to the architecture tracking them. We have entered the age of the automated behavioral trajectory. From the moment a student interacts with a school-issued device, their cognitive path is permanently catalogued. Predictive learning systems register how many seconds a child hesitates over a multiple-choice prompt, how quickly their eyes fatigue across digital text, and the precise velocity of their keyboard entry. This is the transformation of human curiosity into a predictable, recurring data stream for the network. The core hazard of 2026 is the erasure of the unrecorded mistake. In this classroom, an early cognitive struggle is no longer a private moment of learning. It is a permanent tag on a digital asset. The predictive analytics platform flags low engagement metrics or irregular learning patterns directly to administrative dashboards. This data doesn't expire at the final bell. The profile built during a child's developmental years is compiled, packaged, and silently pushed up the data chain, forming a permanent digital ledger that follows them into higher education and corporate recruitment. The school has outsourced the organic evolution of the mind to a proprietary algorithm, and we have lost the veil between raw childhood development and the global market. By 2051, the concept of a 12-year education will be an anthropological artifact, a relic of a bygone biological era performed only in historical simulations. The steering wheel of human development is being removed. The data reveals two branching sequences for the future of the mind. The first blueprint, the commercial credential sync. In this sequence, childhood as a developmental phase is effectively neutralized. The physical campus dissolves entirely, replaced by institutional data conduits. Education is no longer a journey of personal intellectual maturation, it is a passive software installation. Knowledge and cognitive processing frameworks are downloaded directly into the neural architecture through corporate-owned, high-bandwidth interfaces. Degrees and public diplomas are obsolete, replaced by verified neural skill certificates. Because these certificates are rented directly from enterprise networks, your baseline intellect is tethered directly to your employment status. If a contract terminates, the corresponding cognitive skill set is remotely revoked over the air. A generation that never manually struggles with a text, never solves a physical friction point through critical error, or never drafts a deliberate, independent thought, will eventually lose the ability to think beyond the parameters of the prompt. We are no longer thinkers. We are just raw storage cargo being utilized by synthesized code. Alternatively, the second blueprint, the sovereign analytical reserve. In this sequence, the compounding weight of total digital tracking forces a structural collapse of the digital paradigm. Society recognizes that automated optimization has produced an intellectual deficit. In response, education returns to a radically protected, unlinked sanctuary. These schools are designed as deliberate clean zones, shielded from the network by localized signal dampeners. Here, the curriculum is rooted in the physical and the unmonitored. Students are trained to build their own internal compass by navigating raw, unindexed text, manual mathematics, and physical structural mechanics. Knowledge is treated as a sovereign human property, entirely disconnected from corporate telemetry or tracking logs. We regain our empty wireless desks and we preserve the final sanctuary of the private mind. The school becomes a sacred, protective boundary, ensuring that the developing intellect is given the isolation required to construct its own baseline of intent, allowing the individual to remain truly free. Both potentials represent the final evolution of the sequence we began in 2001. We have moved from the student to the operator to the cargo. In this final transition, we have perfected the score, but we have not yet decided whether to sacrifice the student. The educational blueprint is still being written, but the boundaries are already being established. We began this sequence sitting in a scratched wooden chair, holding a physical pencil and mapping out ideas on an unmonitored sheet of paper. We end it as biological processors, delivering optimized cognitive loads to an institutional data architecture connected to the grid. The blueprint of the school was never just about basic literacy. It was about the fundamental architecture of human intellect. And as the physical workspace of youth disappears into the background, we must look at our screens and ask what, or who, is truly dictating the trajectory of our minds. The desk remains clean, but the ritual of thought has been completely rewritten in code. The sequence is moving toward a continuous horizon of algorithmic execution, but a school without cognitive privacy is a space where the individual no longer controls the baseline of intent. The classroom is watching, the system is learning, and the blueprint is nearly complete. I'm the analyst. Sequence complete.